the only thing holding you back is everything that you're doing. This is the premise of how to understand that truth isn't found from finding it, it's found from not looking for it. So imagine that you're the sun and you're already shining, right? But you didn't know that you were shining. So in that instance, because you don't know you're shining, imagine someone said, by the way, you're shining. And you said, no, I'm not. What are you talking about? Everything's dark, right? You wouldn't have any idea as to what that person would have meant, because they're trying to tell you something you already are, because you cannot reference your own light. In other words, if you are the only light that shines, you cannot see something other than yourself. So it's almost like so obviously there that it's invisible to you. It sounds obscure. And because you cannot remember yourself, you don't have any reference point. So you can't say, I know I'm infinite because, I know I'm free because. There's no reason that you're free. You can't basically come to and give yourself permission, in a sense, because freedom is something that you learn after not being free. Because otherwise, how would you comprehend it? It doesn't mean you weren't free before. It just means it's something that you understand properly once you've seen yourself to be limited. Because you can't remember yourself because you're not an object, you can't go, oh yeah, no, I was free and now I'm not free and now I'm free again. You can't do that because you'd have to somehow remember a time where you weren't free, which is impossible. And then you'd also have to somehow remember a time before you were limited, which you can't, because that would have been when you were free. And if you were free, you wouldn't remember that because it would be absolute, right? So when we come to this path, we kind of become aware that we're suffering. And in this awareness that we're suffering, if we literally, just in that moment, stopped seeking to end the suffering, we'd be absolutely 100% free-range eggs. Let's put it that way. We would be fine. But the problem is that we get this we get a new stage of suffering. This is lovely, isn't it? Lovely graffiti. I always do wonder what they all say and what they do with those things, you know? So we go through suffering, but it's an unconscious suffering, and it's what we call ignorance. It's basically we just don't know what is really going on. And then, all of a sudden, we become aware of it. And then instead of just what we could technically do, but we won't because we'll be, again, in a new level of ignorance, just stop trying to resist the suffering, just carry on living life normally, but without trying to get rid of the suffering. But we don't do that. We try to then remove the suffering, and then we create a new level of ignorance where we are now trying to consciously remove the suffering. So now from that point, everything that you do is going to be predicated upon your desperate attempt to remove your suffering. That means every teacher you listen to, every therapist, every guru, every book, every practice, every YouTube video, we will be desperately looking to remove our suffering. And I'm sure you can understand why this is such a big problem, because the suffering doesn't need to be removed. So we're trying to remove something that isn't there. That will go on for as long as it takes to realize the suffering isn't there. Now, this will trigger some people because they want their suffering to be there. They want the illusion of suffering to be there because it justifies their existence. It justifies a history. It justifies a past. Basically, it justifies their entire being from their point of view, which means, what do you mean my suffering doesn't exist? My suffering exists. I did this and this and this happened, and how do you account for this? And I get that, and I don't disregard the actual experience when you're in it. It is very real, and I give respect to that 100%. However, there will be a time where you realize that your suffering didn't actually exist. You thought it existed, therefore it was created. So technically, when you were experiencing it, it was real, but ultimately it wasn't real at all. In the same way that, like, imagine you're walking down the road at twilight. This is the classic Indian analogy. The snake is on the road, it's twilight, you can't really see it, you just assume that it's a snake. So you feel fear, right? You feel fear, dread, panic, you start suffering, and then you get a little bit closer and it was just a rope the whole time. What was the suffering? Was the suffering the snake? Most people think that the snake made me suffer. No, you've seen a snake, you started panicking. You suffered. The snake didn't suffer, and nor did it create your suffering. So the things in our lives, they're kind of like the snake. They're actually ropes. And we suffer because we think they're snakes. And this is actually what perpetuates that cycle. So the realization to come to is that you don't actually know what you are. You kind of have to come for a reset, like a full reset. And this reset is basically about you starting again, starting from scratch completely. Because at this stage, you've accumulated way too much spiritual conditioning. It's what I went through. And this spiritual conditioning will energize the separate identity based on spiritual practices, teachers, knowledge, and things like that. And you become addicted to knowledge. Once you're addicted to knowledge, you're kind of cooked, but you're also not cooked, because being addicted to knowledge is also a kind of a stage of the path where you're also very, therefore, open to the removal of knowledge, which is the process of understanding. So true knowledge removes knowledge. That's the purpose of knowledge. The highest purpose of knowledge is to remove itself. Why wouldn't it be? Think of anything you've ever learned. You don't learn it to keep the memory and knowledge of it. You learn it so that you don't need to remember or know it. Guitar, driving, music, anything that you do, you have learnt first the knowledge in order to remove that knowledge for good. Because the more knowledge that prevents you, this is why people have stammers and stutters, and why people can't have anxiety, is because they're addicted to knowledge and they can't release control over knowing what is going to happen. And think of any conversation that you have. This is why some people struggle to teach and do these types of things, because they don't surrender to their own wisdom. And wisdom is really that. Wisdom is the absence of knowledge. It's the capacity to let the silence speak, so to speak. So this is the kind of job that we all have, is to first accumulate the knowledge, then remove all of the knowledge again. But most people think we need to just accumulating the knowledge, and they get addicted to the knowledge, therefore they get addicted to seeking, and that seeking process is what tangles people up. So you really do have to start again. And for so many people, they think, start again? What do you mean? I've been doing this for 20 years. Why would I start again? I've come so far. Or they may be thinking, actually, that sounds quite relieving to start again. Someone finally telling me to start from scratch. I recommend starting from scratch. And in fact, the entire process of living, in truth, is a continuous, never-ending start from scratch. So if you think starting from scratch is relieving, well, imagine how it would be to live every single mother trucking moment starting from scratch. Imagine having absolutely no knowledge. You completely live. So obviously you have knowledge of, like, if you need to remember the date or the time or whatever you need to do, that's just productive knowledge. But I mean in terms of true knowledge or understanding. So start again, and see starting again as a continuous process that you will now start to enjoy. So the next time that you feel yourself in a situation where you're suffering or resisting or in ignorance, or you feel like you're somehow away from God or away from truth, I want you to don't go to the usual things you would usually go to. Don't meditate your way out of it, breathe your way out of it. Don't do anything to get out of it. You see, don't do anything to stop being what you're being. I want you to start being what you're being. So if you're angry, you're frustrated, you're sad, you just start being that. You don't go, oh, what can I do to get out of that? You start, what can I do to start actually being that? And you realize, well, I can't do anything for that. Amazing. So I just do nothing? Absolutely. Now, you don't do nothing on a level of This doing nothing isn't an absence of care. It's not an absence of intelligence. It's not a just do nothing and let life move on. Because from the point of view that you are in when you're suffering, you are in a mode where there is actually something to do, because you, from that point of view, you are believing yourselves to be separate. So then the only thing that is required is to just ask yourself the question, is that actually true? Is it true that I'm a separate self? What is the nature of my experience? And get really curious. You'll notice that when you stop, and you stop doing the things that you used to do before to try and get rid of your suffering, you'll actually just get really interested in what's actually going on. So you won't go, let me do the practice. No, you'll go, I'm actually interested, not in doing the meditation or the thing that I would usually do. I'm actually interested in what's actually going on. Isn't that fascinating? I actually care now about what's actually taking place. Is it true? Is it not true? Should I want to get rid of this suffering? Is it necessary to get rid of it? Let me find out. What is there to get rid of? And all of a sudden, these questions that I'm sharing with you, they're not like scripts. They're just what the sentiment to get of what I'm sharing is the curiosity, is the genuine curiosity, the wonder to finally face what's actually going on within you without trying to get rid of it. That is a whole new dimension, and that is where that's the premise of thought yoga. That's where thought yoga lives, that place, and that is the adventure. I can't stress it enough. That is the place to be. You'll never not be there. You've never not been there. You might not realize that you might not know at the time where you are in that mode, but it won't make a difference to you because you'll understand eventually. I have a free community where I can actually show you how to do this. I'm launching an academy soon to teach people thought yoga specifically. It's going to be a huge project. I'm really excited for it. So join the free community and learn a little bit more about what I do and what I share, and then see you guys soon. Have an amazing day.